Hey, what's good, everybody? You know what time it is. Your boy Jeffrey L. Boney here for another hot edition of Real Talk Junkies Live. As always, you know I appreciate you for joining us for Real Talk Junkies. Want to encourage you to share the link with all your friends, your family, your foes, your enemies. It don't matter. Everybody needs to check out Real Talk Junkies today. And of course, you know we rocking the Forward Times, so I want you to visit for the latest news, forwardtimes.com. Again, that's forwardtimes.com. And you can always engage with me, not only here in the chat during Real Talk Junkies Live, but also jeffreylboney.com. Again, that's jeffreylboney.com. Pick up the latest book, Don't Argue With Me, a no-nonsense approach to the issues in the Black community. All right, we're going to get right into it, y'all. We're in the midst of 2023, a lot going on. I know you guys have been paying attention to things going around the country and also locally relative to politics. And so I felt that it was fitting to have somebody join me on today on Real Talk Junkies that is a student, if you will, of the political game. Someone that always tells it like it is. We always have honest conversation, even if we don't always agree. But nonetheless, man, we're going to talk about the state of politics, not only here in the city of Houston, but across the country and beyond. Joining me today is none other than my good friend, former Houston City Council member, Dwight Boykins. Come on in here, man. Welcome to Real Talk Junkies, bro.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, man. Thanks for joining me, man.
Absolutely.
You're looking a little snazzy. You normally like you're on the ranch or something, man. What I always
Well, I knew I was coming on one of the top shows in the country, so I wanted to take a bath one time.
Well, good, man. Well, thanks for being on Real.
Thanks for having me.
So let's just, I mean, you know, you were like I introduced you, former Houston City Councilman, man. You've been out the game now as an elected official for about 4 years now.
Yeah, I'm coming up on 4 in November. Yeah.
So what you been doing?
You know, Jeff, I tell you, those 4 years gave me an opportunity, man, to just kind of reflect on this city, myself, and what's going on. I had an opportunity to do some contract work with the district attorney's office with Kim Ogg, and I was grateful to learn what I now know, how the DA's office worked. You know, spending time with Janora, man, and my mother.
So you're the one that was charging all these people and indicting all these people?
Know nothing about the law now. Let's be clear. No.
That wasn't your role.
I was doing community engagement for her, and I'm a big fan of Kim. Kim is a sweetheart, and her heart is right. I mean, I'm not into the politics on that end, but...
no, we're talking politics today.
But in terms of district attorney, I can't speak on that. But I do know I learned something that I think I wish she would have a crash course down there for just the average person to come down and spend an internship or whatever you want to call it, so people can learn what I learned, how the DA's office worked. And but it was an enlightening experience working with former Chief C.O. Bradford and Vivian King and some other good people. So that's kind of you know, I rescued a dog 2 years ago, man. My wife and I.
You rescued a dog?
Actually, the dog rescued us.
Explain.
Man, when you take a dog in, brother, that dog loves you.
You found him on the street? Or?
No, I went to the county rescue shelter.
Oh, okay.
And Jeff, let me tell you, his name was Mason, and that was my late dad's name. They named him, and that was my stepfather's name. And man, that dog came to our life and changed the world, man.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize dogs have as much demand as your wife or your husband. Trust me. But we had to put him down. That was a tough day for me. Man, that was tough. I had never experienced that. And we were definitely rescued
you had
again.
A dog before?
We had a family shepherd when I was like 4.
Oh, so when you was a kid?
Yeah.
But not you know.
Not as an adult. Man, but let me tell you, I miss my dog, man. And we will rescue again, buddy, because I learned so much about the rescue movement.
So why'd you choose to go the rescue route?
It's easy you and I both can afford to purchase a dog, Jeff, but there are so many dogs that we talk about, and I put my City of Houston hat on during that time. Stray animals running the street. Man, those dogs just need love and tending care because they will put that love back on you, right? And we rescued our dog, man, and we thought about the Houston shelter in the county, and the county was closer to where I was at that time, going out to the ranch. And man, I'm glad I made that decision. I mean, you can always buy one, trust me, but you study putting down dogs that stay in the shelter, the way I understand it, over a period of time, and they could be loved just as much. And so that worked out.
Yeah, that's one of the things, you know, especially even out in Missouri City. You know, we don't believe in the euthanization.
Yeah.
Although
you shouldn't.
Although, man, it's like you say, it's a burden cost wise.
Yeah.
And we encourage strongly people to come down to get these dogs, these pets out of the kennels and out of our animal shelter. But it's not always that easy.
You know, it's funny you said it, Jeff, and I don't want to take up a lot of time on that, but I'm telling you, the information and the research I've come up with, there are ways you can do it. The city can help. Missouri City, City of Houston, for an example, in our city, we have about 35 multi-service centers. Check this out. If we open up a BARC substation in each location, each center, raise some private dollars for dry mix food for the dogs, you will cut back on, one, you would increase adoption, but you would cut back on euthanization because people have resources to help them take care of those dogs. Seniors that are in their homes with their pets, they will be able to go to those little locations that's in their neighborhood to deal with some of the issues dealing with the dogs. And I'm not saying set up a clinic in all of them, but just a satellite office, have some internship opportunities for college students to come and sit in those offices. And we can work through that. Now, let's be clear. There are some dogs you can't save, but I think a educated, not Dwight, qualified panel of vets or students who can detect that should have to make that decision, not because they sit in a kennel for 2 weeks. That's not fair to that dog and that dog's life. But I want to, I just want to tell you, man, I did it once. I do it again and again. Rescue a dog, man. I continue to encourage people to do it.
That's awesome, man. Well, listen. Yeah. All right, listen. You've been out the game 4 years, but let's talk about the.
Never out the game, yeah.
Well, okay. Excuse me. You were out the office.
There you go.
You're out the seat.
There you go.
You're not out the game, so you've been in the game.
Stay involved.
Stay in the game. So, the 6 years, right? You were
4 years. 8 years. 2 4-year terms. I stayed 6.
That's what I say. You were 6 years.
Absolutely.
You left early.
Yeah.
So, why? Why'd you leave?
Well, I ran for mayor, and when you run for another seat, you have to give up in Houston. Yeah, you have to give up your seat, but I'm still eligible for another term if I choose to do that. Because it's up to 10 years.
Are you announcing that on?
No, I'm not.
But you decided to run for mayor. But because you did a lot of things in District D, why'd you run for mayor versus like just continuing the great work? Like, talk about some of the stuff you did in District D, because I know that you did quite a few things. With the fire station, I want to say, and the pie burns. Trying to close that food desert gap, and also let me see, the senior citizens, repairs on the houses and all the stuff for the seniors and the second chance. I'm sitting here touting your resume, man.
Keep going. Throw HEB in there. Throw Martin Luther King in there. Jeff, I was born and raised, as you know, in District D off of Scott and 610 at 4th Missionary Village Apartments. And I always talked to Gerald Womack. We came up in the same area. I said, man, our parents would be so proud of us. His mother's gone to glory. But they raised us in an environment under the leadership of Ovi Duncantail, who instilled in us, you can be whatever you want. It's not where you come from. And I carried that with me. And so God blessed me, man, to be able to serve in a seat of an area I was concerned about. And Councilmember Stephen Costello was on council during that time, and he was running traps on food deserts with former Mayor Niece Parker. And when I got into the game, was elected, that was one of the first things that came to mind. Because when we grew up, we didn't have grocery stores, no quality food, fruit and vegetables. It was all fast food. And Stephen Costello and I talked about it, and then I went and met with the mayor about the pipe burns, and we incentivized pipe burns to be able to open up a store with a forgivable loan if they hire, and I threw in people from the neighborhood that could walk to work, seniors in particular. And so it's a criteria that the government will forgive that initial insurgency of resources we gave them, right? And so I took that idea and I said, hey, I could do it on a bigger scale. Let me look at another avenue. And my background, I've done a lot of work in Washington, D.C., working with federal agencies. And I was in Washington meeting with the Deputy Secretary of HUD about community development block grant money, why our city was not receiving as much as it should based on our population growth. And they were telling us that the administration that was in place during that time wanted to focus on law enforcement, and they were cutting back on those resources. And she asked me as I was walking out, I looked like a dog with a tail between my leg. I was so depressed because I thought I was going to do something there. She asked me, had I heard of this Section 108 money? And I said, no. And she was telling me, because we talked about food deserts. And she said and the easiest way to explain it, Jeff, is like a line of credit that you have, and you only draw down a percentage of it. And under former Mayor Bill White, it was set up, from my understanding, and which is a great thing. And I realized there was some money on the table, and immediately called Mayor Parker, and I asked her, would she support the initiative of me the effort of me going after some of that money to buy this piece of land where the new HEB on 288 is located, because HEB and Kroger, I was trying to get both of them to come in and compete for it to give us the best deal for our neighborhood. And so anyway, HEB agreed and they came on board, but they didn't want to pay for the land. And I understand, because I think they put a $40 million building on the property. And so what happened was we got that store in place, but we set it up in a unique way. The land lease that they're sitting on, because the building is on a land lease, the annual payments of that lease is put into an escrow, I call it, but to a 501c3, the Houston Housing Finance Corporation. But that money is building up to help other food deserts throughout the city of Houston. Mm. And I love that model, Jeff. So all the food desert areas in the city, we can work towards trying to make it a win-win between the grocery store, whether it's Food Town or whatever store, and the city, to where we can deal with this food desert crisis. Mm,
yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah, man.
So you spearheaded that.
I sure did. It was a lot of folk involved, but that was something that was passionate, because I was being told no, no, no. And the vice president for real estate for HEB flew in town, and Jeff, it was so funny. He said, "Sir, I'm gonna show you how we can redo this one on OST and Scott." I said, "My wife still ain't gonna shop there." Mm. And I took him around and showed him what he was missing out on. Pearland Traffic, Medical Center, 3rd Ward, Sunnyside, South Park, Museum District. And he said, "You know what, council member? It's not what we're earning, it's what we're missing out on. And you're right. We can have a larger store, more, quality food." And so that's how it happened, man, in a short.
So let me ask you this then. I mean, all the great work you did as a District D council member, do you have any regrets for deciding to run for mayor and instead of staying in there and continuing the work?
No, I ran for mayor. Let me be clear about this. Sylvester Turner and Mayor Turner and I, fraternity brothers, and it wasn't personal. We just have a different philosophy in terms of governing. And I took it very personal when just the way, I worked with Mayor Parker for 2 years, and her management style was different and, more open to dialogue, whether you agree or disagree with it. Turner is a little bit more stern, and he's a very caring person. He wants to do right. I know that, but his approach is totally different. And then when the firefighters got the referendum passed, and the mayor and his team spent millions of dollars to defeat it, and it passed 3-1, and then he lobbied to try to kill it, and that's still in the court now before Texas Supreme Court. That I knew that was going to cost the city a lot of money in legal fees and the whole 9 yards, and for whatever reason he continued to go after them. I just said, "Hey man, right is right and wrong is wrong," and I took it upon myself, because the fire department get overlooked on a lot of things. I have a lot of respect for our police department, but the same respect is due to the fire department. Those men and women put their life on the line the same. If it would have lost, the referendum would have lost, I would not have taken the position to support it. I'm going to support what's right. The voters said, yes, it's our job to find the money. And we had the money, Jeff. We just didn't want to, the administration wanted to go in a different direction. And I said, well, I'm not going to just talk about it. I'm going to try to lead on it. And that's why I ran.
Okay.
And I don't regret it.
Right. So good segue, because you brought up the firefighters.
Yeah.
We're in 2023. So this is the last year of the Turner administration.
Yeah.
He cannot run. He's term limited, as well as several other council members and council seats. With that being said, you talked about the firefighters having their litigation in the courts. That's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Over time, because I guess the way things are looking, it's as if the wind is behind the backs of the firefighters. It seems. Of course, we don't know what the courts are going to do, so I'm not definitively saying that. But if that is the case, say they do win in the courts, city's going to have to pony up a lot of money, and so We're talking about a major hit on the bottom line of a city that has a revenue cap. And there's a lot of other issues that have to be addressed. Caving infrastructure. I mean, City of Houston is almost the third largest city in the country. What are your thoughts on kind of just where things are? Because I mean, right now, I think Mayor Turner did a great job of dealing with the pension issue during his term, but there's going to be an even greater issue, when he leaves office. So, is there anybody waiting in the wings to kind of deal with that issue, you think?
Well, first of all, you identified the issues like you were a council member in Houston, Jeff. That was great. Now, you hit the nail on the head. And I was talking to some friends the other day, and when I mentioned what I'm about to mention to you and to your audience, this person, well respected, said, Dwight, nobody's talking about it because you're right. And he deals in the his background is in the financial industry. The city of Houston is facing a major financial crisis. And for those who want to be the mayor of the city, needs to be real clear about this. The city of Houston received some federal money for Harvey, and some of that money was used, from my understanding, to elevate salaries of police and fire. Once that money runs out, those salaries are not coming down. So you pull that money out to general fund, which is only 28 cents on the dollar, which means you're going to cut back on what? Parks, libraries, infrastructure, the whole 9 yards. You're not going to touch first responders. That can equate to a couple of $100 million, Jeff. And then you're looking at the Texas Supreme Court ruling on collective bargaining and pay parity for the firemen that has been kicked down the road. If that comes back in favor, and that number is around what we're hearing, 200, 250, you're looking at $500 million that the new mayor and the new administration would have to walk into and figure out how to work this thing out. So I think it's very important that we understand what we're potentially facing. And I don't know what the mayor's plan on his way out, if the ruling comes before he leaves, what his plan is. But we're at the end of that road. You can't continue to appeal. I guess you can go to U.S. Supreme Court. I hope we don't do that, because we're paying all these legal fees that could have probably helped cover some of the expenditures for the firefighters. But I do have an idea of a couple of things that I would like to put in place. And not saying that you have to be the mayor to do it, but I think there are some avenues with the federal government.
I was about to go there.
But there are some avenues, man, with the federal government and with the Texas legislature, I would hope that would, well, I'll tell you, I mean, because it's important to my city, the federal government, my guess, and I'm not a lawyer, but I assume this, if the Texas Supreme Court rule that the city is mandated to make payment or whatever the ruling is, I would hope that we would go and use that with the city, with the federal government, to say, look, we have a $200 million stronghold on us at this point, based on a ruling from the Texas Supreme Court. And we also have salaries that's been inflated by using HUD money. Federal government, can you allow us, Harvey money, can you allow us to get a one-time hit of a couple of $100 million to cover this because of the lawsuit? Using CDBG dollars or using money from Justice or wherever you can get the money for a one-time hit. And hoping that because they gave us the money, we're in a situation where we're in a crisis based on a financial crisis based on a ruling of Texas Supreme Court, that they will. And then on the state end, I would hope that the governor and the lieutenant governor is talking about a $40 billion surplus, that the relationships between the mayor, Mayor Turner, and whomever the next mayor will be able to advocate for a one-time hit from the state at that, because of, again, the state ruling from Texas Supreme Court. And that will put us where we need to get to, Jeff. But I'm telling you, we got to come up with something, because they don't want to, you can't raise taxes in Houston. You got the revenue cap, as you mentioned. But once we get that covered, then you bring in my proposed garbage fee, what I talked about. Every city in the country has one. But in addition to paying the garbage fee, and people can say whatever they want about it, the reality is it's going to happen one day. But I would use that money that's collected to put that money into solid waste, but take solid waste funds that's currently in the general budget. Well, this is what I had proposed when I was on council. Put that back towards the payments of the salary inflation between police and fire. Mm-hmm. You got me? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so that's what I would like to see happen. I know you can't collect money and use it to pay salaries. That ain't what I'm saying. Right. You collect that money, give all that money. The solid waste budget is about $70 million. So if you charge $20, $25 based on what we have in place or what I had proposed, you would generate $107 million. That's almost a $30 million surplus for solid waste, who can buy new trucks, hire new people, and pay competitive salaries.
Mm-hmm.
So
why don't you do me a favor
Yeah.
and explain, because you serve
Yeah.
In Houston as a council person. Not many cities are faced with the type of revenue cap that you all are faced
Yeah.
with. Explain the challenges with that.
Well, it means for the layman person, let me just put it like this. For the person who may not understand why. First of all, Houston is the only major city revenue cap. And as far as I know, one of the few cities, period, of size with a revenue cap. So all the money that people pay in their taxes, and you hear them saying, I pay my taxes and these potholes are here. And I give Mayor Turner credit for trying to address those potholes. I really do. Pay my money, my taxes for more police. Do understand, every dollar you send in, we do not keep that same dollar for services, because a portion of that money is recalculated back to you as a rebate. To this day, I haven't seen it on my water bill. That's what they claim. It's coming back to us in a rebate. But if you take all those little rebates and send them back and collect them all, that's a big number, millions of dollars. But yeah, I think Bill White was the mayor during that time when they implemented the revenue cap, and I think it was the worst. He was a great mayor, but one of the worst decisions for our city. Horrible. It's killing us. And Mayor Turner can only do so much with what he has.
Speaking of layman's terms, explain that though, the cap. What is that? For those that are layman's, like how is that in place, and how does that impact how you provide services and what you do? Like, you cannot charge X percent. Was it 3.5%, 2.5%
on
y'all's revenue cap?
2.5. No, I think it was 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm asking, like, explain, because you just brought up something. Everybody wants all these services. They want their streets fixed, their sidewalks repaired. Your mama needed her sidewalk repaired.
Thank you, Councilman Boney. And that's Missouri City now, not Houston.
Missouri City, yeah. But I got it done.
You got it done.
So they want trash picked up. Yeah. They want their, water. They want sewage.
They want the services. They deserve them too.
But there's only so much money to go around, and everybody is clamoring for more.
The easy, Jeff, there are roughly 4 million people in the county, and I think in Houston, Harris County, Houston proper is probably 2.5 or something like that. If we could, I'm talking take out seniors, disabled vets, and all that. If we can collect the revenue, 100% of the revenue, and use it for services, we'll be in a better position as a city. The cap, what it does, it pulls you back, because I used to know the calculation offhand, I'm drawing a blank on it, it'll come back to me though. But once you collect so much, it caps it and it won't go any further.
Right.
And so that money is given back in a rebate. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I haven't seen it, but that money, that delta that's given back could be used, man, for those services. And when you have these public work employees out here working day and night and leaving our job after 10 and 15 years, which is close to their retirement, but they're leaving, and I've heard the stories. They're leaving solid waste, where my daddy drove a trash truck, leaving to go and find another job because of a $3 or $4 increase. We just don't have the money. But that's why I wanted to put in the garbage fee, to be honest with you, to help those in solid waste.
But see, that's what I think a lot of people don't want, they don't understand.
Yeah.
They want police, they want fire to be paid. They want to argue and champion for them, but they don't want to pay for it.
Well, I don't think that's the case, Jeff. I think what it is, they don't realize.
Has to be the case.
No. You said it. I'm gonna tell you why I'm saying this. You said it. They want the services, but they don't understand that the revenue cap is prohibiting them. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But that's being communicated.
Yeah.
And they don't want to raise that cap or remove that cap.
Yeah. I think Mayor Turner, about a month ago, put in the paper that this upcoming legislative session has started yesterday. They were sworn in yesterday. The cap removal, or a portion of it, will be brought up, even if it's enough just to say increases for first responders. If that's the case, we can free up money for in the general fund for other services. So as let's say the cap is here, if we can move it up this amount and that delta is just for first responders, this is enough. If you know how to manage the money, the budget, this is enough to operate the city. Okay. But again, they don't have a revenue cap at the county.
Right.
They have almost 2 times the amount of money we have. I just wonder why the cap has to be with the city of Houston. Period.
I don't understand. And that's what I'm trying to understand. It's very unique to Houston,
Yeah.
Particularly in Texas. And the more you keep telling people though, or trying to explain to individuals, nobody want to pay more money, but they want everything.
Everything.
They want everything and then some.
Yeah.
And whatever little bit that they think that they deserve or supposed to get, they want that.
Yeah.
With no question.
Yeah.
But yet, if you don't deliver it to them or are unable to, you brought up something. I was looking at the news the other day, and I saw the report, the investigative report about solid waste, and how they were working all of these hours of overtime and whatnot, and you had, and I know it was very tough for them to do, because you had solid waste workers actually on camera.
Yeah.
Talking about their situation. And then when I say tough to do, nobody want to come on and be on the record. And there were some people it noted that they did not want to go on camera or come on the record because they were in fear of retaliation. It's a sad state of situations and affairs in a city such as Houston that's this size, but people not truly understand it. It's got to be a collaborative understanding and effort to try to address these issues. It can't just be, the elected officials, it's their fault, they got to solve it, they got to fix it. Everybody has to work together to do it, I believe.
You're right, Jeff. I didn't hear the story. I mean, I didn't see the story, but I've heard about it. And I can tell you this, if a news reporter came to them and they interviewed individuals who work in solid waste and they gave their opinion, they're telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
The men and women of solid waste, man, are under so much stress, not just at work, but at home. I mean, I give Mayor Turner credit again. I heard recently that they receive a 6% pay raise under Mayor Turner, and they've never had 6. It's been 1 and 2. So I give him credit for that. But I think we got to do better in that area, man. There are people so stressed out. They've had, some serious situations over the years. I don't want to get into that, where individual lost his life. I mean, stress just builds up in all areas, but in solid waste, miss one day of your trash not being picked up. Oh man, as a council member, that phone is blowing up, right?
Absolutely.
But we don't treat them that way.
Yeah.
But first responders, we put them on a pedestal.
Right.
Solid waste should be right underneath that.
Well, all of the
I was about to go there. Public works should be right under that.
Absolutely.
And so, but let someone miss one day of recycling or trash, man, your phone is gonna blow up.
Hold on, it don't just stop there though, Dwight. I mean, hell, you talk about the animals.
Oh man,
come on, man. Let something happen at the animal shelter or with bark or whatever.
I'm gonna be out front.
But I'm saying, they're gonna be like, why isn't enough being done for the animals?
Yeah.
For the pets, you're gonna be all on the news, and I think Sugarland just was in the news because of their euthanization recently of animals and some dogs and stuff like that. So I'm just saying, everybody seems like they want what they want, but again, it takes a collaborative effort and an understanding to say, look, man, I got to play my part too.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be willing to understand the situation and be willing to be okay with this is the best path forward for us, even if I have to pay a few more cents or dollars.
And Jeff, a lot of people have done that. If you recall with the Rebuild Houston fee, it was sold on the notion, I was part of that campaign, and to use the money to put in a log box to make certain that it's for street and drainage only. The money got to the city during that time before I got to council, and it was used for other things. So people don't mind paying. They just want to make certain that the money is being used for what it was campaign.
I'm sorry, man.
Bless you. That's okay. So people will pay. They know they have to. They just want to make certain that the people they elect are good stewards of their resources, and that they will follow. If I tell you I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. Promises made is promises kept with me.
But then people want a homestead exemption too. They want to increase home. They don't want to pay any property taxes. But I'm just saying, it's like,
okay for them to ask though, Jeff. I get that. I get that. They got the right to ask, because sometimes you can't get what you ask for.
Closed mouth don't get fed. But I'm saying, but you have to have an understanding.
Yeah.
That okay, you don't want to pay taxes. I get it. Nobody want to pay taxes, especially when you get to a certain age. I get it. But those seniors who are getting homestead exemptions, and I believe that everybody deserves if it can be, if you can afford it. But they want those services, matter of fact, more services. If they have challenges with their homes needing to be rebuilt, we have programs for rebuilding homes and things like that, especially, after Harvey and some of the other challenges that we have. So, it's like it could get really just messy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just unfortunate, man, because of this cap. I think this cap being removed, or like you say, trying to, I guess, alleviate the pressure of having to accommodate, public safety and first responders could help the city of Houston in a major way. What do you think that would do when it comes to the next mayor?
Well, let me go with this. If the legislature that's now in session, which is scheduled to end in May,
Mm-hmm.
the end of May, it would allow Mayor Turner to move forward with it, unless they go into special sessions or if they vote it down.
Mm-hmm.
If they vote it down and it does not happen, the next mayor gonna have a major, major, major challenge from a financial perspective.
So have you gotten any, because I know, like you say, you ain't been out the game, you're still in the game. Have you get your ear to the street? Is it looking like it's a possibility that that type of legislation can come out and be signed by the governor?
It's hard. Today is the second day. We will hear more. I would think probably when bill markups take place, and I think maybe February, March, we'll see. And then it depends on who's carrying the bill.
Mm-hmm.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has a strong arm in the Senate. And my good friend, Senator Boris Miles, I don't know I hadn't talked to him about it, but he's real good at carrying and articulating issues that are important to the city. Senator Caravarado, Senator John Whitmire, I would think that they will come together and articulate why this is important to our city. Again, if it's just for first responders, I can't see why Republicans will vote against that. You get what I'm saying? And even though Democrats, they know Democrats support it as well, but that's an issue that they pretty much campaign on a lot. And that money is just used for that. That's a big hickey on the city, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And we need to, based on our population growth in this city, we're going to continue to need fire and police in our city. And we need to make certain they're compensated.
What are some of the other issues the city's facing?
Well, I think quality of life is always a big issue. Again, the revamping of BARC is important to me, to be able to bring it out to the communities, to make the resources available for BARC and the structure in trying to eliminate euthanization of animals. I think after school programs, even though people don't tie it to the city, it does overlap one another for our youth is important. I think internship opportunities, I think Mayor Turner did real well with that in terms of getting corporations to hire some of our kids. Getting back to infrastructure, I think we're going to always have infrastructure problems if we don't continue to get in front of it. We stay behind it. And I think the mayor, if we can get that cap move where we can get more resources in the ground and use Rebuild Houston for what it was, its purpose, we can focus on staying in front of infrastructure before pipes burst. The worst thing you can have, man, someone call you and say, a pipe burst in my yard. Is it on the city side or on my side? Because they're concerned about it. That shouldn't even be a concern. We should know. We have infrastructure on our side that's intact. It's not ours being the city. But it's a gamble because the infrastructure is so old. There are a lot of, I think, our seniors, addressing the needs of our seniors, Jeff, is very important to me. Very important. I think we have to look at ways to make their quality of life better and easier and not more challenging. I think it's very disrespectful that they, like your mom, my mom, have paved the way for us to get to where we are. We get up here and forget about our seniors.
Yeah.
When I ran in District D, I campaigned on 4 issues. One, to improve the life of seniors by helping them with minor home repairs at no cost to them. And we repaired over 607 homes for seniors with no city money. And that was our private, and I want to thank all the donors that helped with that. We had a golf tournament and all that stuff. And then I wanted to create a second chance program to help those guys who I grew up with, guys around the city, but they would come from around the state with second chance job opportunities, including nonviolent ex-felons. Mm-hmm. And the third thing was to make sure we deal with our infrastructure, and bringing grocery stores to the neighborhood, and we've done them all. One other thing, Jeff, that you talked about the next mayor and the next city will be facing that.
Yeah, who's going to be the next mayor in November?
It's early in the game.
Okay.
We'll see. It's early. God knows.
Only God.
But Jeff, what do you think about, man? And I think as a council member, if it works for the city of Houston, it should work for you guys as well. We talk about giving people second chances. The question becomes, is it really a second chance? Yeah, we give them a job. But when they go home, they're living in an apartment that's not in their name because of their issue, whatever it is. They paid their debt, they're fine. I would like to get with HUD and just check this out. You understand this. Get with HUD and say, hey, look, we're receiving tax dollars money to give to developers to build apartments, right? That's taxpayers' money. The government is about a second chance program, the federal government. Your local municipality is about second chance. Why not talk to your members of Congress, get federal government to mandate that if you receive a grant, meaning developers, you receive resources to build apartments, that a percentage of those units have to be set aside for people who need second chances. Let's be clear. I'm not saying put ex-murderers and all. I'm talking about people who are nonviolent ex-felons that can get a job. And you have criteria, maybe on the job for 12 months, whatever, but give them the opportunity. They get them a job, get a vehicle, but can't find a place to live on their own. They need to be able to get that to get them back in the game that the quality of life they deserve, rather. So if you're using federal money as a developer to make profits, why we can't mandate a portion of those 300 units to be set aside? And we can, and that's something I would like to see happen.
So talk about criteria.
Yeah.
What's the criteria of the next mayor? I know the fiscal thing that you talked about, having an understanding and wrapping their minds around how to deal with that potential hit that the city could face based off of this potential ruling. But what other criteria should the next mayor have as far as what should their body of work be? What should they be able to do? What kind of skills should they possess?
Oh, to become the next mayor?
Yeah.
Oh, experience matters, man.
The next mayor should be what?
I think experience matters.
Okay.
Big time. Experience matters. Again, you walk
experience with what? City government?
For that seat. The city of Houston does not have, unlike Fort Bend, a city manager.
No, I'm asking. I said experience with city government or experience with what?
Experience with city government matters, or some type of government. And I say that, Ben, we don't have what you call a city manager like in Fort Bend and other cities. So the new mayor walking in has to be a person, he or she, to walk in understanding the dynamics, whether it's a financial crisis, community issues when they come down to public session and speak about issues. You have to have compassion for people, right? You got to be able to understand when a person come down on Tuesday to talk about their concern, they left their home by bus, Uber, taxi, whatever the case may be, or drove their car to get down there to talk about a particular issue. You have to have compassion to that, whether you agree or disagree. So that to be able to just be called an honorable means nothing to me. I would like to see a mayor ride around in a pickup truck and pick up trash like solid waste does, or help somebody in public works lift a pipe. I'm not saying you have to do that every day, but come home to the people, be part of the community. You're gonna handle the business. You have 300 employees plus. You're gonna get the business done. But back to I think the next mayor, when I was on Councilmember Dave Martin and I were one of the two council members, and I'm just speaking about what I know, that would fly to New York and sell the city's municipal bonds. For those who may not be aware how that work, the credit rating of the city's dollars is very important because it costs us more to borrow money based on bad debt that we have. And with this potential $400 million about to hit us, that's why this is so important to me, Jeff. It can hurt our credit rating as well. And so Martin and I would fly to New York and help sell the city municipal bonds. But then when you look at the screen, how they were selling, it was a good day. Sometimes there were some concerns, but it was a good day to see our bonds were selling quicker than a lot because of our ratings. So you ask, when people ask the question, why is this so important? That's why it's important. I saw it firsthand, and I served on the Budget and Finance Committee, and I stayed focused on the numbers for the city. It's easy for me to deal with that, but I'm also dealing with that brother on the streets too, and that sister on the streets who need help. And I think as a council member, I did that. Homeless.
Sound like you selling yourself for next mayor. But anyway,
no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you what I did. But Jeff, one other issue you mentioned, I forgot to, that just came to mind, a homeless initiative.
Yeah.
We have a big homeless crisis in our city, but some friends just got back from California. They were telling me about their experience, and where our city ordinance are a little bit tighter than theirs. And but even the people that are homeless, I think there are opportunities there if we take the initiative to be a little bit more respectful but aggressive to it. Respectful but aggressive, because even though they have a quality of life we have in civil rights, we do too. And I say we, not separating, but people who had, it's not fair for a mother to walk their child down the street and someone who chose to, whatever decision they made to make them homeless, to harass them. And it happens. Trust me, I know. It happens. And it's not fair for a person to defecate in front of in somebody's yard and say they had the rights. That's wrong. So I think you got to balance the homeless, but I think we need to be a little bit more assertive, a little bit more aggressive, but respectful of their rights by providing services, continue to provide services. You can't force them to take them, but you can make it you let them know that we're about the business. But we want to provide an opportunity, whether it's a house, an apartment for you, once you go through your process. But make it work, man, because the quality of life for Houstonians is just as important to me.
I want to talk about another race coming up in the city for 2023. And you mentioned one of them, but both of them, two of the announced candidates, two of your former colleagues from our city comptroller. Michael Kubash and Dave Martin. You just mentioned Dave Martin. He's the mayor pro tem. And of course, Michael Kubash. They're both running. They announced that they were running for city controller. What's your thought on that?
Well, it's going to be a good race. As you mentioned, Dave, Jeff, I served with Dave and Michael Kubash. Full disclosure, Dave Martin's one of my closest friends. And he's a good brother. He's a man of faith. He loves his wife, his kids, but he loves my wife. That's what's important to me. And he's a good guy. Michael Kubash has been a pillar in the community. He has always been a friend of mine. Every holiday party, he would come up to Conroe and hang out with us. I have nothing but good things to say about him. I think it's going to be an interesting race. Both of them have a passion for the city. I think Dave has the credentials on paper. I mean, no one can touch him. I mean, he is very strong on paper. MBA, chair of the finance committee for 8 years. I mean, he's very strong. But you can't take Kubash lightly. But Dave stepped up to serve with Mayor Turner as his mayor pro tem. And Mayor Turner puts a lot of trust in him. So it's going to be an interesting race, but I look forward to that. They're both some fine men. And at this point, it's early in the game. You never know who else going to get in.
Have you been hearing any other names?
Well, a good friend of ours, Jeff, Laura Robinson, was running, who would have been the first African-American female candidate.
Was running.
Yeah, she's made it clear she's not going to run again.
She backed out.
Yeah. Her business is, from what I understand, her business is doing real well. And I have so much respect for Laura and her business, man. She's not running. And, again, it's early, man. You never know. In the mayor's race, council race, controllers, we're in January. I think when I ran for mayor, Tony Busby jumped in, I think in March. I mean, so you got time. Yeah.
So let's pivot to the state. You talked about it. They got sworn in yesterday.
Yeah.
Quite interesting new dynamics down at the State House. You have Yolanda Jones is new down there. It's going to be interesting to see how her first full term. She's been down there filling out the remainder of the term of Garnett, a former state representative Garnett Coleman, but session wasn't in. So this is her first session.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see her at play and a lot of other changes that have taken place down at the State House. So what are your thoughts on this upcoming legislative session? You've seen some of the agenda that's been put out there by the current governor and the lieutenant governor, what their priorities are. And they are coming in with I want to say a $33 billion? $40 billion surplus.
That the city needs some of that.
Yeah, the city needs some of it. What's your thoughts on?
Well, first, let me thank former state representative Garnett Coleman for the years of services, man, dealing with mental health issues, healthcare issues, education. I was working for Texas Southern University under Dr. Priscilla Slade during that time, and he was on the appropriations committee, and I got a chance to work close with Garnett. And that is a brother that's committed to something. He's in it, and whether it's healthcare, again, education, he helped create the TERS, carry the ball in Austin for the TERS in Houston, the TERS bill, and he's going to be missed. But he served his time, and I think we wish him the best. Mm-hmm. Jolanda Jones is now the state rep. Over this period, I've had an opportunity to get to know Jolanda. In that race, I was helping Dr. Reagan Flowers, when they first started, and she did not make the runoff, and Jolanda did, and asked me, and I said, absolutely, I would help you. But I'm glad I did. I got to know who this young lady is. Jolanda, she's independent now, but her heart is big as Houston, man, and she cares about this city. And what I like about Jolanda is that she's going to speak her mind. And this is one example. She'll probably laugh when she hear that I'm saying this on air. We were at a mutual friend's fish fry a couple of weeks ago. Last Friday, I'm sorry. And she came by, and we were just chopping it up in the back. And so we were leaving. I was walking towards my truck, and it was by her car. So I walked her to her car. And I said, Jolanda, Senator Miles and others typically have, when they sworn in, a reception at the end, dinner, whatever. I said, are you doing something? She said, no, Dwight, that ain't my style. I said, well, Jolanda, look, if you want to have a private dinner, I'll get some guys together and I contribute and we'll do something. This is your first one. She said, Dwight, let me just tell you, I'm going to Austin to work. She said, nothing against nobody else, but that's just not my style. I said, I respect you. And so I wouldn't have known that. If I wouldn't have gotten to know her. And so I take that to say, whether it's the revenue cap that needs to, being a former council member that she is, a revenue cap that needs to be removed, I would trust Jolanda to articulate that on the House floor for the city of Houston without a question, because she's speaking from personal experience. Whether it's a criminal justice reform bill, I know because she's a criminal defense lawyer, she will speak up. And I have a lot of respect for her.
Well, what about some of the other things that you've heard about? They're looking to deal with property taxes once again.
Property tax relief.
Property tax relief yet again, and some other priorities that doesn't seem like it's going to have any positive impact on African Americans. So what are your overall thoughts? I mean, well, of course, property tax relief would.
But it's got to be substantial, Jeff, not something that's hidden that you can't see it or feel it.
Right.
But I want to see them remove this revenue cap in the city of Houston and give us some of that money to help with this lawsuit that's coming in. $200 to $300 million that we're going to be stuck with as a city. If you really care about the city of Houston, help us out. The Texas Supreme Court can potentially rule where it's going to hurt the city financially. That ain't how they rule. They rule based on the law, right? But the impact of that we should have dealt with back in the day when I was on council, but that's a different story. The impact of that ruling will have an impact. And so we sitting on $40 billion in the state, which is tax money, taxpayers' money, and they're using it for other purposes. I would hope that they will carve out some of that money to help our city move forward.
What's interesting, last session, you had the Republicans who pushed for this. It went from the session prior, constitutional carry, if you will. They had the open carry. Then they went to constitutional carry, and they said that everybody at the age of 21 or older can get a gun, have a gun without even having a permit or getting licensed. Now, fast forward to this session, you hear Lieutenant Governor say that anyone who has a gun and commits some sort of a crime doing that with the gun should be a minimum 10 years in prison. I feel like all this stuff has been a setup, particularly as it relates to African Americans. Your thoughts?
Damn.
I know, right?
I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah.
That's scary, man. That's very scary. Almost like when crack cocaine first came out.
Right.
How it was put out there and the penalty for it, was just horrific. Because I'm not saying because African Americans was in that business, which they should not have been, but they were, and they were in the prison system for many years. Now, NRA has come into Texas, and guns are just running rapid, and they passed allow you to carry them, which I thought was strange last session. Anybody with no background check.
No background check.
And now
no
you're
license.
saying no license. Now you're saying minimum 10 years. Man, that's a hard one, Jeff.
It's just
It's scary.
Because it seems like these laws, and that's why I tell people all the time that they need to vote. They need to be involved in the political spectrum, because although you didn't vote,
you voted.
You voted by way of allowing the persons that are making these laws, this public policy, it's going to impact you in some shape, form, or fashion. It's going to impact you one way or the other. And then when it happens, then you want to cry wolf or be mad and complain like, man, I can't believe this is happening to me. I can't believe this happening to Junior or to, Big Mama.
And that's typically when we respond then.
Yeah, we're very reactive.
Yeah.
But I just find it's just consecutive sessions. It's like now the lieutenant governor, and of course, he is the decision maker, the voice of the Senate.
Yeah.
Everything goes through the lieutenant governor.
Absolutely.
And Dan Patrick is definitely understanding of that.
Mm-hmm.
And he pushes, nothing gets on that floor
right
to be debated unless he gives his blessing.
Correct.
And so he has put out his priorities. And you know that he's going to have someone that will file a bill or has already filed bills to have debate and discussion and potentially have that type of bill signed into law, assuming that Governor Abbott would be aligned with him in his thinking.
Well, I would hope my good friend, Senator Boris Miles, as well as Senator John Whitmire, who wants to be the mayor of the city of Houston,
mm-hmm.
and Senator Carabarado will fight against that on the Senate floor.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak for others, but I know Boris will.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's scary, Jeff. That is very scary to all communities, but particularly African-American community, oh man.
Yeah.
It's you just caught me off guard with that.
No, but you think about
minimum 10 years in prison?
Well, that's what he threw that out there, that it comes with a stiff, it's almost like a mandatory minimum.
Yeah.
And it's similar to, you remember the lady in Florida who was serving a 26, I want to say, year sentence, 25 or 26 year sentence. She fired a warning shot when her husband was abusive towards her, and she fired a warning shot to just get him away.
Mm-hmm.
And because she had been convicted of something in the past, because she used that weapon in Florida, whenever you commit a crime, whatever it is, and you have a past record and you use a weapon, so I think that they tried to tie it to some sort of attempted murder type of charge or whatever. And so they said that she committed this act, and because she committed this act, the judge's hands was tied. So because she committed this act, she was automatically sentenced to a mandatory minimum sentence for whatever was on the books at that time. I want to say it was 20-some years.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I'm looking at that, trying to be, because if you look at Texas and Florida,
you're saying something.
Texas and Florida kind of look alike. They kind of look alike.
But you're saying something. So for people who, I'm just thinking this through, man, because this one threw me a curve. Because the impact of that is if someone had one charge against them and they're out on probation or they've served their time
on parole,
they're off parole, and they get caught up in this situation where they enhance the penalty or make it a minimum based on their prior.
And whatever the crime
because
is,
of the prior.
You got a gun involved.
Yeah, man.
You got a gun involved, whatever the crime is being committed. It could be anything.
Yeah.
It could be anything.
Isn't that something?
And now you think about, you couple that with the fact that anybody can have a gun without a license. So I'm just thinking about the potential of concocted crimes. And you think back on Jim Crow and the Black Codes and all the stuff that happened where, people were put into prison and whatnot because of jaywalking and concocted crimes that was made up to get them arrested, incarcerated. And I'm just really concerned about that. That's something that I'm following this legislative session, because when he put that out there, I considered it like a dog whistle, and it kind of opened my eyes to what progressively has been done legislatively over the last, now going on this third consecutive legislative session. You went from the open carry, then you went, and I remember writing a story, the Forward Times, saying that open carry ain't for us.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward to this last legislative session, and they had this quote unquote constitutional carry. And anybody, I mean, why would you want that? Why would anybody want to have a law in place or something in place where we have, when you're driving, we have stop signs, we have stop lights, we have speed limits. And the reason that we do that is for the protection of everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to open this up willy-nilly. You don't even have to get training to get a license. You don't even have to have a permit. You can just have a gun legally, own a gun in Texas without any issue.
Well, Jeff, look at it this way now. The more you were talking, the more, I mean, I'm really disturbed by that potential bill. But now try to take them away. You'll never get elected. Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
They throw that out there. Now you try to take it away. You can't get elected statewide because you're trying to take my guns. No, we're not talking about, when people have that discussion, individuals just taking folk guns away. You know, I'm just saying that conversation goes into so many different areas. But I would ask you to, since the session just started, man, bring in, ask Senator Miles, Whitmire, and Carroll to come in and sit on your show and ask those questions. Because between January and February, they're just, getting committee assignments. They would have time to do it. I think that'd be a great, or take your show on the road to Austin. I think I know that would be great. A great dialogue to have with, and I know you understand because your background in government, Jeff, and just in general, to be able to see through the air, if they BSing, deal with the facts and see what their angle will be on that, because that's important to our community and to this country.
Right. And there's so many laws that are being passed and signed into law. And I think sometimes we look at the president of the United States and we just focus on that.
Right.
Like the president is the end all be all. But, these state legislatures, these state houses, and these Senate, when these laws come from get signed by the governor and on their desk and signed, and now all of a sudden they're impacting us, and many of us don't even know. We don't pay attention to these laws and how they impact us. And I was also thinking about this, Dwight. I was thinking about the fact that what if, in fact, everybody, this whole city, this whole state is littered with guns, and Black people have all those guns, right? Then all of a sudden they pass a law saying, in order to have a gun, you got to have a license now. We changed our mind. So now you got all these people that's got guns that may not even know there's a new law in place that they reverted back to the way it used to be. I'm just saying, I mean, call me, this, I guess, pessimist at times when it comes to thinking about how certain members of government operate and how there's a plot and plan that to impact African Americans, particularly, man, through these types of systems. I'm deeply concerned, man. I'm deeply concerned. And so I think that that's something that everybody needs to be focused on, man, not just Jeff Boney.
Oh, absolutely, Jeff. That's why, and I hope, again, I'm going to repeat myself, you talk to some of the members of the legislature that's in session, because this is when they can start introducing bills themselves and take the politics out. And I give Boris a lot of credit for that. He will lose a fight on the floor. I've seen him do that, standing by himself for the community. And I think he and Senator Whitmire and Senator Alvarado will be focused on trying to make certain what's best for Houston and the state of Texas is the first priority.
So what happened, man, in this past November, man? I know you were behind heavy Beto.
Yeah. And
it seemed like there was a glimmer of light and hope that Texas would finally become blue. And he would be the one lead the way.
Yeah.
As always, as he's done in the past, He helped down ballot races, particularly at the county level in Fort Bend, Harris County. What's her name? Definitely, Judge Hidalgo definitely should thank him for surviving all the money and effort spent to try to unseat her.
Yeah.
What happened, man? I mean, is that just par for the course what we should expect in Texas from here on out?
Well, I think it's, no, I think, it can, the state is ready. I think I had an opportunity to serve with Beto on his finance committee, help him raise money. We raised $88 million, and I got to meet a lot of new people in Houston and Texas, throughout the state of Texas, in this endeavor. I believed in him because he cared for people, man. This guy here convinced me, and he never changed his story, but he convinced, when he was out in other neighborhoods, about what he would do in Texas. He convinced me that he would address seniors' issues, second chance on a statewide, healthcare, education, and his approach to it was something I bought into. One thing I could say, I was in Austin with him at a rally, Jeff, and at this particular rally, with a lot of students and retirees. It was a mix between college students and retirees. The population was probably about 95% white. And Carl Lewis was there, I was there, a few others. And when Beto hit the stage, he had a Texas Southern University cap on, talking about Prairie View and TSU being underfunded. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
That's just one example of what I've seen and heard. So I got behind him because I believe he believed in what was best for Texas. And where we were going with the woman's right to choose, whether it's incest or rape, that they couldn't have an abortion if that was crazy with this current administration. And the way he was, this Robin Hood in the state of Texas, where HISD, has to give a chunk of their money to other school systems. And we don't have all the vocational programs in our cities, in our schools, for our kids to do something to reduce crime in our neighborhoods. I just believe in his vision, I still do, in his vision. And that's what happened. But I was shocked. Not only he got beat, he got shellacked.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that,
Jeff Boney for governor. Jeff Boney for governor.
Well, it sounds like you, man. I know you're a fan of Yellowstone.
Oh, man, that's my show.
So you watch it a lot, and I know you're a fan of it. Matter of fact, he won a
governor's race.
No, he won an award last night, Kevin Costner.
Oh, did he?
For the Golden Globes. Was it the Golden Globes?
Oh, on Yellowstone?
For Yellowstone.
Oh, man, I hate it, man. I got to go and look for it, man.
Yeah, man. But anyway, man, thanks for being on, man.
Thanks. Oh, Jeff, before we go real quick, we want to keep Eric Thomas. Is it Thomas? Yeah, Eric Thomas in our prayers, the Olympian that recently passed.
Yes.
Where they're having his funeral up in Nacogdoches this week, and I'm going to try to make it because he brought so much to our city.
Yes, I know. Very, very tragic. I think a blood clot or something.
Yeah. Young man.
Him out, man. Yeah, definitely, man. So thank you so much for being on Real Talk today, man. I'm gonna have you back now.
Look forward to it.
Maybe next time, man, you'll announce that you're gonna run for something.
We'll see.
All right, man.
God bless you, man. Thank you.
All right, y'all. That'll do it. We better get up out of here. Real Talk Junkies, y'all. ForwardTimes.com, JeffreyLBoney.com, and of course, yours truly will be back next week for another hot edition of Real Talk Junkies. Let's go.